The top U.S. commander in the Pacific warned senators that the military support China and North Korea are giving Russia in its war on Ukraine is creating a security risk in his region as Moscow provides critical military assistance to both in return. According to Associated Press, Admiral Samuel Papero, head of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, told the Senate Armed Services Committee that China has provided 70% of the machine tools and 90% of the legacy chips to Russia to help Moscow rebuild its war machine. In exchange, he said, China is potentially getting help in technologies to make its submarines move more quietly, along with other assistance. Senators pressed Papero and General Xavier Brunson, commander of U.S. Forces Korea, on China's advances in the region, including threats to Taiwan. And they also questioned both on the U.S. military presence in South Korea, and whether it should be shielded from personnel cuts.
In 2024, the People's Liberation Army demonstrated growing capabilities through persistent pressure operations, with military pressure against Taiwan increasing by 300%. China's increasingly aggressive actions near Taiwan are not just exercises, they are rehearsals. And while the PLA attempts to intimidate the people of Taiwan and demonstrate coercive capabilities, these actions are backfiring, drawing increased global attention and accelerating Taiwan's own defense preparations. As General Brunson said, North Korea's development of advanced nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles pose a direct threat to our homeland and our allies, and are executing a deepening cooperation with Russia. Russia's growing military cooperation with China adds another layer of complexity, creating a compounded challenge with the deepening cooperation among China, Russia, and North Korea. And China and Russia's Pacific Fleet is a growth enterprise. U.S. Indo-PACOM deters these challenges to regional stability and competition and crisis while maintaining the availability to prevail. But that margin is eroding, as Chairman and Ranking Member have discussed. In 2024, we've conducted 120 joint exercises, among them 20 major joint exercises, including not just the U.S. Joint Force, but allies and partners. We continue to strengthen the relationship with Japan, South Korea, Australia, the Philippines, India, Taiwan, the ASEAN nations, Pacific Island countries, and in fact, European partners are active in the theater.
The U.S. Navy has released a video showing jet fighters taking off from an aircraft carrier operating in the Mideast. According to Associated Press, the U.S. ordered the USS Carl Vinson to the Mideast to back up the USS Harry S. Truman, which has been launching airstrikes against the Houthi rebels in Yemen since the American campaign started March 15. Footage released by the Navy showed the Vinson preparing ordnance and launching F-35 and F/A-18 fighter jets off its deck in recent days. The operation of the Vinson and its strike group in the Arabian Sea comes as suspected U.S. airstrikes pounded parts of Yemen controlled by the Iranian-backed Houthis overnight into Tuesday. American officials have repeatedly linked the U.S. month-long campaign against the Houthis under President Donald Trump as a means to pressure Iran in the ongoing nuclear negotiations. The U.S. Navy's Bahrain-based Fifth Fleet, which oversees the Mideast, declined to discuss details of the Vinson's operations. Russia insists on verifying Kiev's purity in discussions with the West on resolving the Ukrainian issue. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said this in an interview with the Kommersant newspaper. Verifying the principled purity of our Ukrainian neighbors is the main issue we insist on in our discussions with the West. They supposedly want to help the settlement process. All these peace plans drawn up by Macron and Starmer are built on the basis of retaining at least a piece of land and having a Nazi, openly Russophobic regime there, created to prepare for a new war against Russia. This was also the case with the Minsk agreements, Lavrov noted. He spoke about strike on Sumy. International humanitarian law categorically prohibits placing military facilities and weapons on the grounds under civilian sites. Since the earliest days of the crisis, and even earlier when the Minsk agreements were in effect, and we were hopeful that they would bring a peaceful solution to the problem, leaving Ukraine's territory whole minus Crimea, there were a million facts of artillery and air defense systems deployed in city quarters next to kindergartens. The internet was full of videos showing Ukrainian women yelling at the military, telling them to clear out from retail outlets and playgrounds, but they keep doing so to this day. We have facts about who was inside the building that was hit in Sumy. There was another get-together of Ukrainian military commanders with their Western colleagues who were there under the guise of mercenaries, or someone else. NATO military personnel are there and are directly in charge of the operations. Everyone is aware of that. The New York Times provided an account of the U.S. military personnel playing a key role in attacks on Russia from the very beginning. Without them, most long-range missiles would have never been fired, he added. The United States flew long-range B-1B bombers in a show of force against North Korea on Tuesday, days after the powerful sister of Kim Jong-un vowed to resist a US-led push to eliminate the North's nuclear program. According to Associated Press, North Korea often reacts to the US deployment of B-1B bombers and other powerful military assets with missile tests and fiery rhetoric. Tuesday's flyover of the US bombers could draw an angrier response because it happened when North Korea was marking a key anniversary, the 113th birthday of state founder Kim Il-sung, the late grandfather of the current leader. South Korea's defense ministry said the U.S. bombers participated in a South Korea-U.S. aerial drill over the Korean peninsula to strengthen the Allies' combined operational capability and demonstrate their deterrence capability against North Korea's advancing nuclear program. A ministry statement said South Korean F-35 and F-16 fighter jets and American F-16 fighter jets also took part in the training. It said South Korea and the U.S. will continue to expand their joint military exercises to respond to North Korean nuclear threats. It was the second time a U.S. B-1Bs had participated in a drill with South Korea since President Donald Trump began his second term in January. Trump has repeatedly said he will reach out to Kim Jong-un to revive diplomacy. North Korea hasn't directly responded to Trump's outreach. Last Wednesday, Kim Yo-jong, Kim's sister and a senior official, derided the U.S. and its allies in Asia over what she called their daydream of denuclearizing the North, insisting North Korea will never give up its nuclear weapons program. Her statement came as a response to a recent meeting among the top diplomats of the United States, South Korea, and Japan, where they reaffirmed their commitment to push for the North's denuclearization.